This is the Kopercrabbpodcast.
I'm Chaney Crabb.
Navene Koperweis here. Shit, I forgot to hit my button.
Oh, fuck.
This is the Kopercrabbpodcast. There we go.
Today on the podcast, we've got our friend Riley McShane. He's the vocalist of Allegaeon, Continuum, Virulent Depravity, Son of Aurelius. He has a lo-fi project called Modern Retro, and he's the one of the hosts of Metal Blades podcast. What's up, man?
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, right.
I know, I was going to tell you, we're only going to be able to put one of those in the title, Riley, so you're going to have to pick Riley's choice.
I'm just gonna work myself until I'm dead. That's my goal.
Hell yeah, man.
Stay so busy I don't sleep.
That's what it's all about.
You're like a drummer, like a metal drummer.
Yeah, right.
I know.
That's that little like tweet repost that's been floating around recently has been like killing me every time I see it.
It's amazing. And it's true. I was thinking of Bryce Butler. That guy's like in every band, so he's one of those drummers.
Everything. He's so good though, and he's such a sweetheart. I love Bryce.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. He's great, and he's always smiling. Fucking rules.
He is. When the only time I've actually had a chance to hang out with Bryce was in Atlanta on Bloodletting when Continuum was doing that, and he kept making these like Toad from Mario Kart noises. It was he would just be like and
Okay.
And it was fantastic, and I called him Toad all night, and I couldn't tell if he thought it was endearing or not, but I liked it.
All right.
That's all that matters, man, is if you like what you're calling other people, right?
Yeah, right.
So we were looking at our routing today because we're supposed to be on tour together right now.
We are supposed to be on tour together right now.
Yeah.
I think yesterday was like Denver or something.
Yesterday, I looked at it to prepare for this. Today's a day off, so yesterday would have been in North Carolina, and tomorrow in Fort Worth.
The long drive to Texas. I remember looking at that and being like, because like tons of people on the package are like pretty big stoners.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that sucks that like we have to be doing a like 20-hour drive on 4/20/2020.
Oh right.
I know.
For all the stoners, they'd just be bummed driving into Texas, like the most hardcore weed law state ever.
Yeah.
Is it still like that? I heard that they sort of let up on it a little bit.
I think in some parts they might have. There's like one dispensary in the heart of Texas in some random town that I've never heard of until I heard that they got a dispensary. But I mean, Texas is Texas. It's like still kind of sketchy driving through. It would be the worst 420 ever. Coming from one of the big stoners on that tour. Yeah.
And that they'd be like pulling over vans, just like sitting on the side of the road, just like looking at tour vans like, oh yeah, I bet they got tons of weed in there. It's 420.
Especially when
rope them in, boys.
Especially when it's our van, that's like Cheech and Chong's van with smoke pluming out the windows.
Yeah, we'd be in trouble. One time we got pulled over in a Buc-ee's parking lot, and we had just smoked after a venue or after playing a venue, but the cop stayed far enough away from our van. He would just talk to us like kind of on the outside of the van. He wouldn't get too close to it, so we got away with it.
I think he made mention of the weed.
What?
I think so.
I don't remember that.
I think he might have made mention of like, hey, you guys might want to get rid of that weed.
Oh, really?
Something like that.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, I missed it.
It was because our trailer lights were out, and I was back there working on them, and he came up and he was trying to help. He was like really nice, and I think he might have made mention of the weed.
Wow. Yeah. Have you ever gotten pulled over for anything like that, Riley?
I have. While I was living in Santa Cruz, actually, which is basically like getting pulled over for having a fucking soda in your car.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. I was driving up through, well, you guys will know what I'm talking about, but for the listeners who are not familiar with the Santa Cruz layout, I was driving from Ben Lomond down into like downtown. So I was on Highway 9, which is like a mountainy road through the redwoods. Right. And I'm like, I had just recently knocked off the rear view mirror, like my passenger or my driver's side rear view.
Yeah.
And so I was just driving with this like piece of wire like hanging out the side of my car. I had like backed up into someone else's spare tire. They had like an Isuzu Rodeo or something like that.
Yeah, of course.
And I backed up and like clipped the spare tire with my mirror, and it just fucking cracked right off. So I had no mirror, and I was smoking weed because I was like 20 years old. Yeah. And I was smoking weed driving. this like windy ass mountain road, and this cop pulls up like right next to me and starts like yelling at me like out of his fucking squad car. He was just like, "Hey, your mirror is broken." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And he like
killer boots, man.
Yeah, right. he was like, "Your mirror's broken." I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, I know, thanks." And he just like stays like right next to me and is like looking at me, and I'm like,
I can't fix it right now.
Are you gonna pull me over, or like what's going on here? And so he eventually like stops and like gets behind me. And I'm like getting ready to get pulled over. My girlfriend at the time was like sitting next to me, and we were just looking at each other like, is like, what the fuck is happening? Like, is he as high as we are? Like, what the fuck? And so he pulls us over and he's like, "Hey, your mirror's broken." And I was like, yeah, I got that. The time when you yelled it at me out the window. And he was like, he like leans in, like head into the car, and is like, "Smells like some fresh unburnt marijuana in here." And I was like,
that's specific.
I was like, that's weird, man. I don't know. It's super. Like, I'm not gonna cop to it. And so he's like, "All right, well, I'll be right back," and like takes my ID and shit, and like goes back to his car. And I couldn't remember where I like put the pipe, because like obviously when he pulled up next to me, I wasn't like fucking gonna be like, "What's going on, dude?" Like, so I stashed the pipe somewhere, and I couldn't remember where it was. And so I'm like looking around the car, and I see it, and I like tap my girlfriend. I'm like, "Hey, look at this shit." And there's like, it's like sitting like right in the center console, like in plain view. So I kind of like, I don't want to like be like moving all crazy with my shoulders like while he's right behind me. So I kind of like super slide, just like grab it and like put it in my center console so he can, because if he sees it, he can be like, "Hey, yo, get out of the car," kind of thing.
Right.
So he like comes back in, like gives me my shit, and like sniffs around and is like looking for something. And I was like, "Okay, like, so you're gonna write me a fix it for the mirror, or like what's?" And he's just like, "No, you're fine. Like, just get it fixed."
That's cool.
And he's like still trying to like find the weed, but at this point he like can't see it. But yeah, the fresh unburnt marijuana thing, I was like, "Oh, I don't know, man."
That's a good thing to say, like as a joke on tour.
Yeah,
like you walk in a room.
Like, yeah, you know how that's always the intro into a circle. Someone's trying to chief on your marijuana if they come up to you and they're like, "Oh, it smells good in here, man."
Who's smoking that devil grass?
Yeah. So the new thing is going to be, it smells like some fresh uncut or unburnt marijuana over here.
So are you from Santa Cruz?
Fantastic. No, I grew up in San Diego, where I live now, in North County in Escondido. But I moved up to Santa Cruz to go to school at UCSC. And then I just kind of ended up staying there for 10 years, as Santa Cruz will tend to do to people.
Yeah. We've been here for 10 years now.
Yeah, around 10 years like, almost.
Damn.
Nice.
But I like it here so much. It's so beautiful. And, we live a fucking half mile from the ocean and a mile from the forest and the mountains, which is, it's awesome and beautiful. But
when I was living up there, I bounced around like everywhere. Like I started off up in the Santa Cruz Mountains in Ben Lomond. And then my first place, like that was just like me and my chick and some roommates, was like right down the street from the beach. Again, this is like, you guys know what I'm talking about, but
whatever, who cares?
It was like right
figure
there
it out.
On 38th and Portola.
Okay, that's nice.
That's nice. So it was like a stone's throw from the ocean. It was like just that one block from Portola to East Cliff.
Absolutely.
I know exactly what it is. That's really nice.
And that was right. We were right on top of Castaways. There's apartments up there. So we were right on top of Castaways Bar.
Okay. Did you go to Vallarta all the time? That's pretty close.
All the time.
Yeah.
I was a big chill out guy, right? Right there.
Chill out is pretty bomb.
Chaney hates the potatoes.
I hate the potatoes. Everything else is delicious. They shred them too fine. I don't like it.
The way they do their eggs kind of always bothered me. I'd always have to be like, "Okay, let me get this burrito, but could you not put 3 dozen eggs in it, please?"
Yeah.
It is a ton of eggs, man.
Dude, that place rules.
If you get the right order, Chill Out is the bomb. I will go there.
It's one of those places where it's like you have to like learn the menu a little bit, and then like sculpt your order to be like, all right, I want this, but like light eggs and like extra this, and like and then it's like perfect. But,
all the ingredients are there, but let me make the fucking burrito.
The place is legit, and they give you a lot of food. So
and I mean, Cliff Cafe down the street.
Cliff Cafe. Yeah.
Super good.
Cliff Cafe
Super
has
good.
some of my favorite pancakes ever. They're so good.
It's pretty good. Place.
They're
Speaking
so
of
good.
food, though, I made a note here about you that you like pineapple pizza. What's the all
Oh
that
yeah,
all about?
I do too, man.
Okay, so,
I do too.
So the way that started, so a few years back, a friend of mine named Rachel, she would be like, just every once in a while be like, hey, like, what's bothering you today? Because like usually if something was bothering me, I'd be like, oh, bitch, let me tell you, like fucking like,
Yeah.
and and it was usually like asinine shit that I would just be like funny about. Like I was like, well, as I'm texting this, I'm walking behind a group of people who are like 6 long across the sidewalk and walking half a mile per hour. And I just want to walk at a normal speed. So that's what's bothering me right now. It's driving me fucking crazy. Like, and shit like that.
The deep struggles. Deep struggles.
Yeah, right. And she would hit me up for shit like that every once in a while. She was like, hey, what's bothering you today? And I was like, yeah, this, that, cranky old man shit. And then she'd be like, okay, but like, how do you feel about pineapple on pizza? And I was like, it's good. I don't mind it. I like it. And that just like turned into this fucking all out war between like people on my fucking social media feeds who love it or the people who hate it, which is like the internet. You know what I mean?
Right.
But somehow I became this like unofficial ambassador for this shit. And I'm just like, I don't even like it that much. It's like, it's good. I'll eat it, but it's not like every time I get pizza, I'm like, oh, it's gotta be fucking Hawaiian, bro. Like,
I know. Well, see, I've always felt that pineapple on pizza is not the real problem. The real problem here is fucking corn and tuna on pizza. That they're this horrible creation that they've made in Europe, and they're actually serving it to people.
That's a real thing.
Have you ever had that on tour in Europe?
No, like what kind of animal? Like what the fuck?
No, there would be nights where catering, one of the pizzas that we'd have would be tuna and corn. It's disgusting and despicable.
See, I'm just not a big tuna guy in general. Like canned tuna, I should say. I should specify.
Yeah.
Like fucking like that, like bumblebee tuna, chicken of the sea shit. Like keep it away from me. Like it's fucking disgusting. But like tuna rolls and sushi or like a fillet of tuna, like that's different. You can kind of prepare that. It doesn't have that like been sitting in a can in its own water for X amount of years taste to it. But dude,
I've been known to eat a lot of cans of tuna in my day.
You're like, Navene's like a cat. You know what it is? It's a dieting thing because we're both like we've both gotten into extreme diets over the years, and tuna.
Not right now, by the way. Not right now.
But
not doing that thing.
But tuna is one of those things that if you're trying to get lean and shredded, it's just one of those quick fixes that you can eat. Yeah. But when you're in that mode, you just don't even really think about the food that you eat anymore as being tasty.
Or though, on the flip side, you know, I used to get a tuna melt sandwich from Kmart when there was Kmart here. They had a little, they had a cafeteria there. It might not have been there when you lived here because this was like because I'm from Santa Cruz and then I moved back. But way back in the day, there was a Kmart eatery. They had a little shitty like.
The grill, Kmart grill.
Yeah, and like I would get a tuna melt every once in a while.
And that was good.
Super good.
I believe you. Dude, Zachary's downtown has the best tuna melt
of all time.
Zachary's has debatably the best sandwiches ever made. Zoccoli's is what I'm thinking of.
Oh, Zoccoli's, the Italian spot.
We don't really go there. We've gone there a couple times. It's
if you ever are craving like the best chicken pesto sandwich you've ever had,
I think that's what I got.
Zoccoli's downtown. Oh
really?
My god.
No, like, we got the marinara, the chicken parm. We didn't not chicken pesto. That sounds really good though.
The chicken pesto is really good. They like put these like aged like marinated red peppers on it, and it's it's so good. Okay. Anyway,
dang. Now that we've spent like half of this podcast talking about the food troubles in Santa Cruz, man. So yeah, if you can get up to Santa Cruz, eat some food. Go on
Santa Cruz has good food.
The Riley, Chaney, and Navene food tour.
Don't you think that?
Yeah, right.
But Santa Cruz has pretty good food.
It's decent. It's decent.
I guess San Diego, you're coming from San Diego, they have really good food.
Yeah, San Diego is kind of off the chain.
San Diego has really good food.
But you live in
the Mexican food down here is like unparalleled. I'm one of those guys who
pretty good, man.
Even living just in Northern California, there's like this dividing line in the state of California where like they stop wrapping burritos in paper and start wrapping them in foil. And like I can't do the foil burritos, man.
Oh, you can't do the foil?
Really?
Huh. No. Wow. I can't do the paper.
Oh damn! Typical NorCal
SoCal Mexican food beef right here.
I've never heard.
I'm impartial, dude. I mean, in Iowa, what do you think the fucking burritos are like there? For the most part. I mean, the food trucks are kind of good. I'll give it that. But like,
Iowa's got some pretty good Mexican food. That place we went to with your parents last time we were there, that new place in Ankeny.
That's like really a place that serves queso.
It's really good though.
Like chili.
So what?
But yeah, man. So what have you been up to in lieu of going on tour?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of studio work. I've been doing a lot of like guest vocal spots and been teaching a lot. I teach, vocal coaching, and have been for the past few years. So
that's cool.
Gotten hit up for a lot more for students and all kinds of stuff. I haven't been streaming as much as I thought I would be. I've been streaming on Twitch for the past like 3 years on and off.
Yeah.
And now it's like when this first started happening, I was like I kind of put myself out there being like, hey, like if you're trying to figure out how to stream and like run Streamlabs and do all that stuff, like hit me up. Like I'm super well versed in this stuff. Like I'll get you going. And I'm still doing that here and there. But at this point, it's like, it's really hard to like maintain visibility, even though I've been doing it for so long. When it was just like Matt Heafy and like Herman Lee from Trivium and Dragon Force that were like the big like metal streamer guys.
Yeah.
It didn't really impact my viewership because it's like those guys are so much like in a not only bigger fish, but like in a way bigger pond than I am.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like a lot of the people that are like right there at my level are also streaming, including people who are like just slightly bigger, like Trevor from Black Dahlia and like Devin Townsend and stuff. So it's like they're definitely bigger fish, but kind of in the same pond as I am.
Yeah.
And so it's just been hard to like maintain visibility and like continue to get traction now that like everyone is streaming. And then you have like huge names that are streaming. Like I think like Deftones just did like an album premiere listening party thing on Twitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn.
So it's a lot harder for me to like maintain viewership, like I said, and like keep good traffic and like have streaming be like a viable, not only source of like engagement, but revenue. So I'm getting creative, throwing stuff at the dartboard, trying to figure out some, more on the cusp kind of ideas to keep engagement and keep revenue coming in and do all kinds of stuff while still, keeping things in the metal world and all that kind of stuff. So
definitely hard to do that.
Yeah, it is hard to do that. So is that where I saw that you just started being a part of the Metal Blade podcast, right?
Yes.
So was that like born out of this whole quarantine and new idea? Okay.
Strangely enough. So they hit me up, I want to say like at the end of last year for hosting stuff. And then we actually filmed our first 2 episodes during NAMM. Which was in January, right?
Yep.
January, December, something like that. And I was out there like fielding interviews and doing stuff. And those were supposed to be our first 2 episodes. But then all this started happening. And, we talked about it amongst ourselves and we were like, man, it would be pretty tone deaf to be like, so COVID-19, like everyone's in self-isolation, like welcome to the Metal Blade podcast. Here's NAMM, like,
Yeah.
So like you're worried that it's kind of irrelevant right now? Is that what the problem is?
Yeah. Well, so we filmed a new episode and like had another guest and talked about the pandemic and everything that's going on and how it's affecting people and all that kind of stuff and the industry and, this and that. And now the NAMM episodes, like we still have them, but it's, I think it's, fucking going to be used for like future episodes, like NAMM flashbacks or some shit like that. Like fucking.
That's pretty cool. So there's video to go with that show?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just audio format right now.
Okay.
I didn't have videos set up for, I guess I could have in retrospect brought like a little webcam and done like a video thing, but I interviewed Dave Davidson from Revocation and then Federico Pavlovich from Destrage while I was out at NAMM. So hopefully those will air sometime, but
you could always just put them out as like a maybe in between episode, like hey, here's something cool to check out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we were highlight them.
We were talking with Matt McGackie because he was on our show last week, and he's got Vox and Hops, and he was saying that we were just talking about how good it is to constantly have all kinds of content like on the back burner, because for us now that this whole pandemic has happened, we're all of a sudden having guests call in over Zoom. So we're just able to have like endless guests, and now we have 4 I guess we have like 2 or 3 episodes in the bank, and it kind of feels good to have that as opposed to before when we didn't really have anything in the bank.
Like sometimes we'd be like, oh, we don't really feel like making an episode. But we just make it anyway.
Because we had to, because we didn't have content. But it's cool to have stuff like that, you know?
Yeah,
you could do that. Because we're trying to stick to like a schedule. But yeah, you did the Vox and Hops podcast, right?
I did it
Awesome.
while I was on Bloodletting up in Montreal. We were playing the old foofs, playing foofs. And
nice.
So
Matt swung by and we went to this little spot and got some beers. It was rad.
Oh, yeah, he was telling us about how his friends run the bar down the street, and he kind of gets to go. That's chill, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. That was right before he aired or filmed the like 100th episode thing with Lord Worm.
Oh yeah,
he was like, yeah, we're doing that like next week, and I was like, fuck, because Lord Worm's like such a huge influence on me as a metal vocalist. I'm just like, oh my god, it'd be so cool to just like meet him.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I ended up watching the whole thing, and he's such an odd dude. Like I never would have guessed that he's like he talks like this and is very proper, and it's like, well, but he's like a language professor, so I guess it makes sense.
Right.
So I never would have pictured it coming out of that dude after listening to like Once Was Not and None So Vile. And
right.
Like, you know,
I saw the tour they did with when he first joined back, and they played.
That's so sick.
They played None So Vile like all the way through.
Yeah,
I think you were probably living in Santa Cruz at that time.
Maybe I moved up there in 2007.
It's probably right around that time, I think.
Yeah,
but I'm not good with dates. So.
2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really bad at that shit. I'm like, oh yeah, I went to that show, and they're like, oh, what year is that? And I'm like,
yeah,
can't remember what day of the week it is now.
When people say the year of when something happened or the month, I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. Like, I could never do that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, because I know that you have Twitch, and then Allegaeon has a Patreon. So first of all, I'm not that familiar with Twitch. It's one of those things that, like, you know, we had the same management for a while, and he would constantly tell us to start a Twitch channel, but we just never did, and I've never really known that much about it. So what's the difference, and do you see like is one of them more beneficial than the other?
Well, yeah, they're totally like different machines. Like Patreon is more like a Kickstarter, GoFundMe type of layout, where you can like post stuff to it. And I think that they started doing live streams shortly after, because we've had it since like 2016. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I remember when you guys announced it. It was quite a while ago, for sure.
Yeah, it was a whole shit show. Oh, God,
I think we've talked about.
And I'm just like, bro, like, I wish that we would have just gone the like, hey, we're starting a fan club. Like, here's this new platform. We're doing a fan club thing. Like, we could really use your support, and just left it at that, because there's no way that like media outlets could have twisted that. But
you know what? Go ahead, man.
Oh, no. But what we did was we were just like, you know, this is where we're at financially. This is how the industry works. It sucks. Like, but if we can't figure out our finances, like, we won't be able to tour, kind of thing. And so the media took that and was like, band holds fans hostage. And I was just like, oh my God, like fucking such a nightmare.
The thing is that I feel like the only reason you guys may feel like you were criticized that much is because you were kind of doing something that was new. Patreon, not many people had heard about it then.
Yeah, I know. Now every band says stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's like now if you were to set it up, no one would say anything about it. It's simply because of when you were doing it. And
it's
as a result, I think that more people probably found out about it, even though, you know, it came along with some bullshit for you guys.
Yeah, but I mean, we did it because our friends in Nabla Viscaris had done it and done it really well. And so we were like, oh, like, let's, you know, talk to Neo dudes and, you know, see how they do their thing. And, you know, after like talking about it with them for a little while, we kind of chose the approach that we did. And it's like I said, I just think that the launch was like poorly executed, like poorly put together. We could have spent a little bit more time on it and made it better. But in any case, so Twitch and Patreon. So Patreon's more of like a fan club type of thing. And then Twitch is like a live streaming service that you can use for pretty much anything at this point, like video games or like just chatting, or if you're trying to do music stuff, like anything that you can film yourself doing and put on the internet. You know, that's family friendly. Twitch is like totally cool with, and you can just like put it up on Twitch, and there's other sites like Mixer and stuff that also host similar things. But Twitch has a super interesting history. Like, it started off as like just a video game thing. Basically, there were all these like YouTubers and like, you know, YouTube channels like Kotaku that like hosted, you know, gamers that would film like gaming sessions of themselves and then just like put it up online, right? And so Twitch kind of was like, well, what if you could do this same thing, but like live direct feed when the technology was still pretty new? And it didn't really get a whole lot of traction, honestly. It wasn't until Twitch Plays Pokemon that like it really started taking off. There was this Reddit event that happened. It might have even been 4chan, as it was so fucking long ago, but it was basically this thing. It was Twitch Plays Pokemon, and basically what they did is they fired up the original first generation like Pokemon Red and Blue, and they let the chat control everything. So basically it's like they had one person that was on there, and then they would be reading through every chat message, and the chat would be like, you know, move up 2 steps, move down 3 steps, move right, like talk to this person, do this kind of thing. And so you had this whole community of people playing this game, and it was a fucking nightmare, obviously.
Yeah, I know, that sounds like impossible to do.
Yeah, that's like why it was so cool and so endearing, and it was such a like hilarious like thing to be a part of. And after that, Twitch got all this attention, and you know, people started streaming on it, and that's when like, you know, the major Twitch streamers like Ninja and Shroud and Tim the Tatman, Dr. Disrespect, all those guys like started really getting a platform to be like, hey, we're like the major streamers. And so since then, it's like become huge. Like Amazon bought it a couple years ago, and it's like a giant thing now. But it's basically just like a platform that you can use to engage with your fans in real time. And it's super cool because of that. And not only can you engage with fans in real time through like traditional things like Q&A and stuff like that, but you can also, like I said, like play video games or do like playthroughs or any kind of thing that you have like the technology on your end to host. And so it's like, it's, I don't know, it's awesome. It's super fun. I love it.
It sounds cool.
I love streaming just because it's like, even if only like 10, 15 people show up, you know what I mean? Like it's like having a LAN party with 10 or 15 people that you can just kind of like chill out and talk to and play video games with. So it's awesome. I highly advocate everyone gets a Twitch. My chair just like lost its suspension there. I just
I got one, and I'm gonna do some like just drumming and stuff on there. But just searching around Twitch, it seems like it's like still like maybe I'd say 90% geared towards gamers still.
It is.
Like,
it is. I mean, I think it's always going to be like a gaming platform. But it's, you know, you have people on there that are like super successful doing not that, that aren't like already celebrities, like, you know, like Matt from Trivium, for example. He plays pretty much nothing but just like music. He like goes into a stream room and just like plays guitar and sings and like takes requests and stuff like that. But't already like has the Trivium legacy behind him, kind of thing. Right. But there's other dudes like there's this guy Young Gun, and there's another guy named Chainbrain, and they both just like one of them does what is that game called?
I don't game, so I wouldn't know anything.
There's this music game that like you play Rocksmith. That's what it is. Okay. So you play like you actually like plug in your guitar with like a 1/4 inch, it's like if Guitar Hero used a real guitar.
That's pretty cool.
Whoa,
that's pretty cool.
It's super cool.
That is
it's super
awesome.
Cool. So one of them plays Songsmith, and then the other guy just does the same kind of thing, plays guitar. And both of those guys are like partnered up and have, you know, huge followings and stuff like that. So you can do music stuff on there. The hardest part is figuring out like routing as far as like your mics and your interface and all that kind of stuff. Cause I'm sure you guys know, doing home recording stuff, how your interface, like generally if you're running it through like ASIO for latency free, like direct monitoring, ASIO is like its own driver. It's not going to like broadcast onto your Windows system. So, but the thing is that like OBS or Streamlabs OBS, which are like the two main streaming
I use
softwares.
OBS to do this show, to do KoperCrabb.
So OBS won't generally pick up on that ASIO signal coming from your DAW.
It has to be just like a stereo channel coming straight out of your interface, from what I can tell. Yeah, so you have to do the processing like separately from the computer. Is what I've seen. Do you have a way to get around that or no?
I have not figured it out. Windows, it's like super hard. There's like Mac has like Soundflower and like a couple other software, like virtual cable kind of things. But
Okay.
for PC, it's like there's voice meter, which works sort of, but you have to like fuck with your settings every time, which is a huge pain.
Right.
And then there's this one, like it's called like ASIO Pro Link or something like that. But
Okay.
the guy who originally launched it died, and then like it just became this like hacker's wet dream, because it was this like unlicensed software that was like a virtual cable. And so it got like torn to pieces, and then the dude's nephew came back and like relaunched it with licensing, but it wasn't quite the same. So like it works, but it has a couple like critical bugs. Like
Yeah.
it'll just shut off your system audio for like 3 seconds every like couple minutes, which is like sounds like not a huge deal, but
It's a huge deal.
And then there's like virtual cables and shit that I've tried, but there's one thing called Restream that the folks at Reaper made to kind of like redirect your signal, and I've tried that, and people have like sworn by it, but I can't get it to work. So I don't know if I'm just like an idiot or what.
That stuff's all super annoying for sure. That's why I like with this podcast, it's cool because we have this Rodecaster Pro thing. It's like for podcasting, so it processes the audio like good to go. So it just goes straight into OBS already processed.
That's amazing.
And
it's
then for Twitch, I could use, like, we have an X18, the Behringer thing. So that has onboard processing as well. So you could just fully do a mix and then run it stereo straight into OBS or directly to Twitch or however you want to do it.
See.
But what I need to get is like the little cam link thing. So I can use different, because we just use the iPhones for this.
Right.
But if I had the cam link, then we could use like our DSLRs or like a GoPro, you know.
Get those webcam.
Some tech
webcam qualities.
Some tech talk for you guys.
So when you are doing Twitch though, what is the monetary element to it?
So it kind of, there's a few different ways to create revenue streams on Twitch.
Yeah.
When you're first starting, you can go through this. You can go through Streamlabs or Stream Elements, which are both like sites that you can link into your profile, and both of those have the ability to just like set up like a donation like button link, basically, that you can add into your profile, or you can set like a timer in your chat to be like, oh, like donate to the stream, and it'll like drop the link in your chat kind of thing. And then people can support you, you know, directly through like a PayPal type of donation system. But Twitch also has like on-site revenue streams through subscriptions and through cheering, which is basically using like their like site's digital currency to, you know, support the streamer and all kinds of like tip them while they're streaming. But the thing is that neither of those things are available to brand new streamers. You have to get affiliate status, which isn't super hard. It's like you have to have like, you know, like 10 concurrent streamers for like 7 streams, or 10 concurrent viewers, sorry, for like 7 streams in a row, and stream for like 7 days in a month and have it add up to like 12 hours. It's like super minimal requirements. And then you get affiliate status and you unlock like the subscription and cheering functions of the site. But yeah, at first it's like you just have to depend on people to, you know, either support you through like the Streamlabs PayPal button, or just like do it because you love it for the first like month or so until you get that viewership and that affiliate status. But the cool thing about having a following through music is that it's like, you know, we as musicians, we have kind of like a built-in following, that it's like if any of us were to post to social media like, hey, I'm doing a Twitch stream, like at least 10 people would probably show up and like watch for a while.
Yeah.
So you can unlock that affiliate status much faster than someone who's just like starting to stream as like someone who has no social following whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, but their payout structure is kind of wonky. So I still honestly like prefer and direct people to like that direct donation button, just because it's like, I think it's like 90 days after your initial. So it's like if I made a bunch of money with like subscriptions and cheers in December, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't see that money until March.
Whoa.
And then same kind of thing is though, it's like if I was in January, I wouldn't see it till April. So it's not like they pay out every 90 days kind of thing, but they pay out 90 days from when you made money. as an affiliate. And if you make partner, I think they limit that down to like, or they cut that to like 60 or 30 or something like that. But
that's crazy.
The way they pay out is kind of weird. And then obviously they take a percentage for hosting you and stuff. So it's generally easier to just be like, donate directly to my PayPal kind of thing if you want to support the stream. Yeah,
that's a long time to wait if you want that scroll.
Yeah.
Especially like for me, it'd be a long time to wait for like $1.50 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a long time to wait for a McChicken.
When I get that payday, baby, we're going to Taco Bell dollar menu.
I mean, that's the reality of it. I guess it seems really easy to make money, I think, to people who are like looking at Twitch and things from the outside, but it does actually take some time and some effort to build that stuff. And
I mean, for us, we try to just make the money we make off everything is just buying stuff, because everything is free. Yeah. So it's just if you want to support, buy a fucking shirt or mug, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, really. Exactly. Merch is like obviously the best way to do stuff, but it's all these online hustles. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of online industries that people look at and are just like fucking easy money, bro. But it's like it's not really the case.
It's not like
in
that.
Anything like that. It's just a different platform. And I think that people, it's like you said, it's like an outside looking in kind of thing where all they see is the finished product and then people paying for the finished product. They don't see all the like off cam behind the scenes work that like goes into marketing and advertising and social media and, fan engagement and like using that reverse pyramid, like method of social engagement and interaction and stuff. And it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time.
Out of all the people who do that, only a fraction of those actually make any money. A lot of people are doing all this behind the scenes stuff and don't get shit from it.
Well, I think that at the very base of it, it's the product that you have. I mean, for us, it's like, if the music isn't good, then that really is the issue. That's the core issue. It's not the rest of it not being good. That's how you that's how you have a platform to do everything else.
Yeah, really. 100%.
So obviously, I try not to get too wrapped up in all that stuff. For me,
no. I mean, that's also important to not drive yourself mad trying to do all that stuff. I
mean, the bottom line I feel is that like you have to do it because you love it, whether it's music or streaming or anything. It's like anything that could potentially become a revenue stream. Like if you go about it being like, okay, I'm going to do this to like make some money, and like I'm going to do this because like this is like it's going to be like a huge entrepreneurial endeavor. Chances are pretty high that like that motivation will be transparent and like people will kind of see through it and not want to support you. Right. But if you're in it because you love it and like people can see how stoked you are and what you're doing, like people are empathetic. They'll pick up on that kind of shit. And,
absolutely. And I also think that, the love is the only thing that can get you through a lot of the tough times that come with all of these artistic endeavors, because it gets really hard and often it can be hard a lot more than it's easy. So the love, the passion for the creating is really what's going to get you through all of that shit and make it possible for you to even make any of this a lasting thing anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
And like even for monetary standpoint, it's most of the time if you're doing it for money, you're better off just going and getting like almost any job. You'd make more.
You'd make a lot more. And you wouldn't have to think about it when you went home at a lot of the jobs.
It'd be a lot less work.
Yeah.
So I mean that's not enough to get you there. But obviously, like we always say, we got to pay the bills one way or another. So
it's
totally and I find it's so funny, like because I did the 8 hours a day retail management thing for like years and years. And it's funny how it's like I was way less fulfilled doing that, but I was also way less stressed out.
Absolutely. I know what you mean.
It's like, I feel like the stress of doing what we do and being like, prioritizing art over like a safety net kind of thing of having like a, 40-hour a week kind of job is it's like, kind of makes the end result more rewarding, you know what I mean? Like seeing all your hard work manifest into like shows and tours and albums and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's also like, I'm going to die when I'm 40. Like,
definitely.
So,
I mean, there's got to be I like a nice balance. I like the balance of like the being able to be at home and garden and do all of the things that don't drive me crazy, that I'm just kind of like out of the work zone with. And then I like to have the work zone when I'm doing the art and working on music and all of that stuff. And it's a nice sense of neutrality that I get from that, from like not touring. Because I've noticed the years that we tour a ton, I'm way more stressed out and just like way more not at peace with myself and not at one with myself. And I kind of like that feeling. Otherwise, I wouldn't like continue to chase it all the time. But I do like, the older that I get, the more that I respect that nice balance of both.
Yeah.
And being able to,
I completely agree.
And see, like, Chaney and I were just talking about this, kind of like going all deep on it, but just being able to appreciate like small things that happen. Like the other day, we made like some homemade pizza, and then we were like sitting out in the yard, and just like there was these little lizards that were running around back there. And I was just like, this is, if you just step back and look at this is like just as awesome as like anything I've ever done before. If you just really take the time to appreciate it. And I think people get so caught up with like, this has to be viable in a business. And like, I've done that a lot in my life. And now at this point, I'm just kind of like, I don't want to do that anymore. You know, I'm kind of just, what it is what it is. And I'm going to enjoy the rest of my time on this.
Yeah. And it's so easy to get like trapped in that mind. Like
so
even
easy.
After you've stabilized, you know what I mean? Like even after you've gotten to the point where it's like, I'm good. I'm like set financially, like I'm in the zone, like just all those years of like constantly like stressing and pressuring yourself to like get to that point. It's like, it can become like a part of you, you know what I mean? And it's super important to realize that and to be able to like you said, like step back from it and kind of, you know, look at your life from someone else's, like through someone else's lens, and kind of be like, you know, I'm doing what tons of people out there like strive for. And like, not to say that in like a conceited, like arrogant kind of way, but it's like, it's true. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of people that like wish they could be playing music for a living and like wish that they could, you know, be expressing themselves through art and have it pay the bills. Right. So it's like, you know, it's important to look back, you know what I mean? Like at everything you've done and everything you'll do and see where it's gotten you and just, you know, be grateful kind of thing. And,
I mean, even beyond that, like let's say you're looking up at, because you can always look up at some band that's got more than you have or some person online that's got more than you have. Like I could do that all day, but I choose not to do that. I choose to be appreciative of where I am. And you can do that at any stage in your life, you know, even if you're like, well, these guys are going on tour or whatever. Well, it's like, okay, well, do you have a guitar? You know, like like most of the people on the planet can't like afford a guitar. You're lucky enough to have a freaking guitar and a computer. So there, you're already like leaps and bounds ahead of tons of people on this planet. So, I mean,
it's all about perspective.
Yeah. And I think that sort of thing, like you said, it's easy to fall back into that mindset. Like I think even taking it one step further, it's really hard to not fall into that mindset. You know, that I think that default kind of, I'm not satisfied. That's like where we are default. You know, that's just how humans are, because that's why there's so much progress, because it's a feeling of not being satisfied. So
I feel like anyone who has like that good forward thinking, like work ethic, like I've never met a successful musician who's just like, I'm totally happy with everything I've put out ever. Like, it's never happened.
Not gonna happen.
So I mean, it's important, like Chaney said, for the balance. You know, it's like kind of a little push and pull thing. Just definitely.
Yeah, I think so. So with that being said, let's get into one of your like millions of projects that you have, because you're a busy man. I know that a lot of people ask you, and we were kind of talking about this before the podcast, about Son of Aurelius, because Son of Aurelius kind of ended, if I'm correct, or like stopped being as active when you joined Allegaeon.
Kind of. So Son of Aurelius is a sad story. So
we're here for it.
in 2010, in 2009, 2010, sometime around there, Son of Aurelius got signed to Good Fight Records, which at the time was like brand new. It was Carl Severson, who was the owner of Ferret Records, which is like a legendary hardcore label. And he had just sold Ferret and started Good Fight because he wanted to do more like metal based stuff. So he signed Son of Aurelius as like the first band Good Fight ever signed. And it was supposed to be like the flagship band for Good Fight. The singer at the time, very business oriented guy, like not super easy to work with on that front, because his life experience in business was on a much larger scale, doing like importing and exporting, like international kind of stuff, like from like a family business perspective. So when he would get offers coming down from Good Fight or from management or from booking that he didn't really feel were like good enough, he would like immediately shut it down. He was not like a meet you halfway kind of guy.
Right. He's not used to metal numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So when I joined, the way I actually joined that band was I was supposed to be doing merch on a tour. And their old vocalist hit me up like a week before the tour started and was like, hey dude, like I'm going to be on this business trip, like out in like China. Like I'm not going to be able to make it back in time for like the first week of the tour. Can you like cover vocals for me? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, he sent me a set list. I like learned everything as quick as I could. And, we hit the road, and it was their second tour, but their first like full length tour. It was in October 2010. And it was Cattle Decapitation, Devourment, Knights of the Abyss, Burning the Masses, and Son of Aurelius. Oh, wow. And, so it was like their first like full length. They were opening. It was like a 20-minute set. It was like super short. And, what ended up happening was like every week he would hit us up and be like, hey, like I can't make it. Like, can you do another week? Like, hey, I can't make it. I'll meet you guys. First it was like, I'll meet you guys in Texas. Oh, I'll meet you guys in Florida. Oh, I'll meet you guys in New York. And then he was like, I'll meet you guys in Denver for like the last week of the tour. And everyone was kind of like, bro, just like,
don't.
Yeah, just like don't. Like, why? It's like what's the point of having you come and do like this last week? And no one ever really said that, but I feel like the vibe was kind of there. And I'll never forget our friend Max Zigman was he was sitting in the back of the van, and I just hear him totally on brand just be like, oh, motherfucker. And like,
sounds about right.
Yeah. And I was like, what? And he just like throws his phone like from the back of the van like up to the dashboard, and I grab it, and it's just a picture of their vocalist at home in Santa Cruz golfing that he had posted like that day. Nice. And everybody was like, bro, fuck this guy. And they were like so upset about it. And Carrie called him and was like, dude, what is going on? Like, what, and I should preface that by saying like we had been trying to get a hold of him like all day for the past 2 days, being like, what time are you landing? Where are we picking you up? All this kind of, it was just like dead air, just total radio silence. So we were like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? And then we like learned via Facebook posts that he was just like at home having a good time. So we were all pretty upset about it. And so after that, they fired him, and I became the vocalist full time. And so the next couple years were spent, we did another tour like a few months after that with Wretched and Last Chance to Reason.
You know what? Not to interrupt you, but the first show I ever saw in Santa Cruz when we were just up here visiting was that tour. And we saw it at the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. That was
because we came to hang out with Chase, and he was at that show.
He was at that show.
So it was the first metal show I saw being in Northern California.
But that was when you just came from Des Moines to.
Yeah, I had just come from Des Moines.
And then we went
fresh off the plane.
We went to my mom's for a couple days.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's
I'll always remember that tour.
Warms my heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did that tour, and then we spent a couple years writing, and a lot of things had like kind of fallen apart. Like I said, I came in at the tail end of a good business relationship, so it was like management had like dropped us right before that tour. Our booking agent pretty much dropped us like right after that tour. And
all because of the vocalist?
Yeah. Because it would be the kind of thing where they would be like, hey, you want to like do this Black Dahlia tour? Like you guys will be playing first out of 5, and we'll pay you $150 a night, which is like pretty standard first tour shit.
Yeah.
And he would just be like, fuck no, like
that's nuts.
Never gonna happen. And it's like,
well, it's like you're damn right that's never gonna happen.
You know what I mean? Like I get it. Like, because those numbers suck ass. Like, no one wants to hear those numbers, but like, it's the reality of the business. You know what I mean? Like,
having an ego sucks ass too. Like having a huge ego, and people start to take notice of that. you know? I mean, dude, no one wants to go out and be in a band of 5 people and make $150 a night. No one wants to do that, but it's just it's a growing process. You have to climb the ladder. That's what it's all about.
You really do.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. I just think he like wasn't willing to do that kind of thing. And so he had, you know, kind of sullied all these relationships. And so when I came in, it was kind of at like the tail end of things. So before long, we were a totally independent band. You know, no label, no management, no representation of any kind. And we didn't really have the fan base to justify that move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we were like trying to work with it, you know, work with what we got. We'd already written a bunch of stuff for the next record. And at some point during that process, everybody kind of mutually decided like, we don't really want to play tech death. You know what I mean? Like if we're going to be an independent band, we want to do something that's not only more aligned with our interests, but like a little bit more marketable. And so we wrote Under a Western Sun, which was very poorly received at the time of launch because people wanted another tech death record. You know what I mean? Like everybody affiliated Son of Aurelius at that point with like the way that the first album, The Farthest Reaches, sounded, which was like big, epic, super techy, you know, like really aggressive metal. And then we released this like prog rock record and people were like, what the fuck is this? Like no one was stoked. And it's aged well. Like people have now kind of been like, oh yeah, it's like a really good record, face value kind of thing. But at the time it was just not well received. So we pretty much just like hung it up after that. We were like, you know, we had no means to go tour. Like none of us really knew anything about the industry or how to like be an independent band. And so we, you know, we're kind of banking on like the album doing well and then, you know, using that money to reinvest and, you know, do all that kind of stuff. But when it flopped, we were like, well, we had a good run kind of thing. So it kind of just dissipated and we never really came out and said like, hey, we're breaking up kind of thing. We always wanted to like leave it open-ended and like have the option to make another album in the future if we wanted to, but
I've always been a person of that belief. Like why break the band up, especially now with the internet? You can, and you know, you are going to know Carrie forever and why not leave it open-ended? Like maybe we'll write an album someday. We don't need to totally cut this off just because of this one thing.
Yeah, exactly. So we left it open-ended and like Facebook is still up and all that kind of stuff. And you know, like occasionally people hit us up being like, hey, do you have physical copies of Under a Western Sun and all this kind of shit? And like a little bit of money trickles in here and there. It's like still semi-active. It's like on life support kind of thing.
Okay.
Needs a ventilator.
Yeah, exactly. But now at this point, for the past year or so, Carrie has been writing lots of music along with our friend Joel Horner from Odious Mortem and Decrepit Birth and Casey Howard. Also from Odious Mortem and Decrepit Birth, playing drums. And then our friend Trevor Stewart is playing bass.
Oh, yeah.
We know him.
We know Trevor.
Yeah, good old Trevs. And so it's kind of getting revitalized, but we decided that we didn't really want to use the name Son of Aurelius just because it's not like Spencer and Max as a rhythm section were such an important part of that Son of Aurelius sound that I feel like to continue to use the brand name Son of Aurelius without their contributions would be like a disservice to what they did contribute to the band.
Yeah.
So at this point we're playing around with names. I think we landed with All Realm because it has a very power metal-y kind of vibe to it, which Carrie's writing always has.
Yeah.
That's sick.
And so, you know, we're working on music. We have a few songs kind of, you know, already dialed in and in the bank, and we're all writing and making pre-pros and stuff. And announcement time, you know, next few months, 6 months from now, maybe like we'll get announcements and recordings and do all that kind of stuff. But we're still in the boat of like, do we want to try to push this, like shop this to labels? Like nobody wants to tour. Like I can't be in another touring band. Like I never thought Continuum was going to be a touring band. I thought I was just like just a Legion. Continuum play shows every once in a while, but then all of a sudden last year it was like I had to do Bloodletting for 3 weeks and then, you know, a Legion headliner for like 3 weeks right after that. And by the end of it, I was like, put a bullet in my fucking face. Like I hate this. Like
you guys toured in our van.
Oh yeah, you took our van.
We did.
That's awesome.
We did. We toured in your van. I hope it came back in one piece.
She did.
I tried to keep it clean.
A couple scratches here and there. You know, still trying to figure out what happened. But
Chase told us that it was your fault. Oh, okay, not you. No. But yeah, that's awesome, man. So then I guess I forgot in the middle of us talking about that. I remembered that you went from Son of Aurelius into Inanimate Existence, right?
Yeah.
So that was the bridge between Allegaeon and...
So actually, I think that Inanimate Existence, that album came out before Under Western Sun. That album was honestly like totally studio work. Like the way, like I didn't write anything for that record. And the way that we actually recorded it was that Cameron, who's like always been like the driving creative force behind Inanimate, he was in the recording, not the recording booth, but in the, producer's booth with Max, and I was in the vocal booth, and we both had lyric sheets, and he would be like, all right, so this next part is like we'd play the scratch track, and he'd be like, all right, so this part is like the stars align shining light upon the path, and I'd be like, okay, cool. Like the stars align shining light upon the path, and we did the whole record that way. So I was literally just there to like be a voice, because he didn't want to sing and play guitar for that record, because it's really difficult shit to sing and play guitar for.
Right. Actually, right before we started Entheos, and I think you had just quit Inanimate, I was kind of trying out for Inanimate, but I decided to go and do Entheos, and I think that they just decided to have Cameron go back to doing vocals. Yeah. So
well, what happened was that the reason I quit was because they had a 44-day tour, and they were like, hey, like, do you want to do this tour? And I was like, well, it's a month and a half. Like, I need at least like $400 or $500 just to like pay my portion of rent while I'm gone and shit, and like try to stay, and they were just like, dude, like we can't, like, we're not in a position to like pay anyone anything. And I was like, then I can't tour. Like I can't just not make any money at all.
Yeah.
And that kind of became the like, well, if like you can't tour without getting paid, like we can't have you as part of this project. So it was kind of like a mutual separation of like just my inability to tour and their need to go tour as a up and coming band. So
totally.
Yeah, it wasn't a malicious parting, fortunately, but it was just kind of a business thing, and
it happens.
Yeah, it does happen. And but yeah, that was so I think that like my release schedule around that time was Continuum's first record, The Hypothesis, came out, and then Never Ending Cycle of Atonement, and then Under Western Sun. And honestly, like the poorest, like I've learned since then that it's like once you're done with an album and you put it out in the public, like it's not yours anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's
absolutely
like, and as a creative person, like you should be working on the next thing, and like that's where your focus should be. It shouldn't be on seeing how people are responding to this thing that you're already done with.
Yeah.
But at the time I was like still super attached to it, and like seeing how poorly it was received, and like seeing this thing that like I had put so much love and heart and soul into just get totally shit on was like crippling to me. It was like the worst thing that had ever happened in my creative life. So I totally just hung up my metal boots after that. I was like, I'm never making another metal record again.
Wow.
I'm totally out of like the metal vocalist thing. I'm done with that shit. Like I have more to offer in different spectrums. Like I started working on like solo singer songwriter stuff and electronic music and all that kind of shit. And I did that for a couple years. Played some shows and joined up with like a local Santa Cruz like dance pop band kind of thing.
Oh, I remember you doing that.
Yeah,
what was the name of that again?
Stereo.
Yes, I totally remember it.
Yeah, I checked out Modern Retro today. It's cool.
I hope you liked it.
Yeah, it's sick. I like super lo-fi stuff like that. It's really cool.
It's super vibey. It's not, it's no feat of engineering by any means, but it's
it's good. It's good vibey, smoky music, which is right up my alley.
Are you gonna put out like an actual release with that, like something on Spotify?
Probably. Once I get a few more songs under the belt. The thing about it is that it's like I'd have to rework a lot of stuff because I use a lot of like unlicensed samples, like just to like capture a mood or get the vibe. And lo-fi production has kind of always done that. But if I'm gonna like do a proper release, I can't have like unlicensed sound clips from fucking Wizard of Oz and shit on my stuff.
Right. No, it's cool vibe.
Maybe one day.
But So you kind of like
Started to
got out of
derail.
that and then got
Yeah, I like got out of the metal thing and was just like totally over it, focusing on other stuff. And then Greg, my guitar player in Allegiant, hit me up, being like, hey, like our vocalist is going through some personal shit. Like we have this like quick run from like Denver to Louisiana to do, Louisiana Death Fest before that fucking nightmare fell apart.
Oh, right. Wait,
that was a whole, not to talk shit, but like kind of like that was, that was
wait,
real
so
bad.
that year is the year
Or
that you
Louisville Death
joined
Fest, that's what it was.
Allegiant? That's the year
What's up?
that is the year that you joined Allegiant?
No.
Oh,
The
okay.
year, I think that was like a few years later that it like totally fell
okay,
apart. And
okay.
like there was the whole like dude not paying bands and all
Right.
that.
Okay.
bad shit
So
that
you
happened
were
with it, but
that festival was going on for years then before the shit hit the fan. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
and I said Louisiana, I meant Louisville because that's not even in the same state. But yeah, we were on he was like, hey, we have this like week-long run like to and from Louisville Death Fest, and like obviously we need a vocalist. Can you fill in for us? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And I did it, and it was honestly like metal is like such a part of me, you know what I mean? And like
we know what you mean.
It really took a lot for me to like cut that part of my life out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I had kind of gotten used to it, but when I got like back on stage with another metal band and I did that short run, it kind of like reinvigorated that spirit and was like, it was like, oh yeah, like I fucking love this. Like this is the only thing I ever want to do ever. Like, oh yeah. And so, we did that short run and it was just supposed to be a fill-in thing, but there were some extenuating circumstances surrounding their vocalist and his life situation at the time. So they were like, hey, like if things go bad, like, will you be available? And I was just kind of like, I don't know, if maybe just let me know how things go. I'm working on other stuff and I've got this job and I'm doing stuff with my life. Like, I don't know if I can really set that all aside right now. And then 2 days later they called me and were like, hey, do you want a job? And I was like, yeah. That's how that happened. And I've just been primarily with Allegiant ever since. That was at the end of 2015 that
Wow.
all went down. And then I released my first record with them like a year later, and here we are.
Yeah.
This is history.
Cool. Now you guys' album is 1 year old today, right? Or yesterday?
That's 1 year.
Yeah, yesterday.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday to
Made it.
Apoptosis.
And you guys are
saying that?
doing
Happy
a
birthday.
stream thing for that, right? A little like a
Yeah,
live-
this Friday, it's what day is that? It's the 24th, I want to say. Let me look at my calendar here. Sorry.
think
Yeah,
it's-
Friday the 24th. We're doing a live stream listening party where it's going to be like, a good chunk of the dudes on Zoom and
sick.
the rest, and then just like listen to the album in the background, pause it every once in a while, be like, oh yeah, this part of the song, like I remember writing this, and oh yeah,
Okay.
we were on tour and we did this, and all
Oh,
kinds
yeah.
of
Super cool
fun
idea.
stuff.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
yeah.
Really cool idea.
So,
And then what about the Yes cover?
Yeah, your Yes cover, by the way, really fucking
Yeah.
good, man.
Rip.
Like,
thank you.
fantastic. You guys all did a fantastic job on that.
I'm really stoked with how well that's being received. I'm like, I love old prog. It's like my favorite
me too.
genre of music. And honestly, it was just born of like, we did those Rush covers, and we kind of like separated those releases. So it's like we had Subdivisions come out with Proponent for Sentience as like a almost like bonus track kind of thing. It was just like tacked on to the end of the record, and people seemed to really like that. And then we released Animate, I think like a year later. And still like good reception and stuff. And so it kind of became this thing where, we talked with Metal Blade and they were like, people really like your like prog rock covers. You should do more. And so we sat down, we talked about what we wanted to do. There was a few ideas floating around, like Genesis was on the table for a while. And
that would be sick.
Dude, see, the thing is that like me and Greg are totally different Genesis fans, because there's like Peter Gabriel fans and there's Phil Collins fans.
Yeah,
and I am a diehard Peter Gabriel guy.
I think that there are plus sides to both. The good thing about Phil Collins is that he sounds a lot like Peter Gabriel.
He does.
So, I mean,
does.
I don't think there could have been a better replacement.
Yeah.
But there's good material from both generations.
I totally agree. I think that like you can't look at Land of Confusion and be like, oh fuck Phil Collins,
Right.
like it's such a good song, like and But I'm just like, it's like I said, I'm such a prog nerd. And
Yeah.
that like early era, like weird, artsy, like theater piece type of shit that
Totally.
Peter Gabriel would do. I was just like so into it.
It's rad. And I mean, they were way more of a fucking prog band before Peter Gabriel left. Way more prog. I mean, Phil Collins is a fucking amazing prog drummer.
He is. And he's an amazing songwriter. He's just a fantastic all-around musician. But that character, like that cult of personality shit goes so far.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would say that, you know, if you look at both Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins solo projects, like Phil Collins all the way. Like Peter Gabriel has a couple good songs, like Salisbury Hill is like fucking great. I love that song. And he has a couple other ones, but Phil Collins just like cranks out bangers. Like he is so good.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, we were looking at Genesis and, you know, Greg wanted to do more Phil Collins shit. And I was like, no, I want to do Dancing with the Moonlit Night. Like, and it was just,
okay.
we couldn't find a middle ground. We couldn't find a middle ground. And, so we ended up moving on to Yes, where it was still kind of like, he's more of like a 90s Yes guy. Like he wanted to do Machine Messiah. And I was like, I wanted to do Heart of the Sunrise or like Close to the Edge or something like way overzealous. And we ended up settling on Roundabout because it's like super popular. It's like their number one hit, I think, ever.
That was a good decision. It was a good decision.
It was a really good decision.
Yeah. And the big giant weeb anime nerd in me was also like, oh, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So
dude, I don't know anything about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but now I saw people commenting on your stuff about it, and people will comment on our stuff asking if we're referencing JoJo's whatever adventure, and I don't have any idea what it is. I've never been into anime or anything like that. So is that what it is?
Yeah, it's an anime. It's an anime series. So I'm like a giant fucking anime nerd.
Yeah, I've noticed that about you.
Always have been. And so JoJo's, the reason people say like, oh, is that a JoJo's reference is because it became like wildly popular a few years ago. And is that a JoJo's reference became kind of like its own meme. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But the other big thing that ties it to internet culture is, you know, those to be continued memes. Have you ever seen those? Yeah. Where it's like, so that's a reference to the end credits of the first season of JoJo's, because the first season of JoJo's always ends on like a cliffhanger, and then they like freeze frame to sepia, and then the little arrow that says to be continued comes in, and then Roundabout starts playing. It always like hits like right with the bass line. So the creator of that show is like a huge 60s, 70s, like rock and roll prog rock nerd, to the point where it's like, the villain is named Dio, like the fucking, like two of the other characters are Robert E.O. Speedwagon. Fucking his like mentor is named Zeppeli. Like there's like, it's the references are not subtle. Yeah. Like his mom's name is Lisa. Like it's fucking like it's very blatant, like prog rock 70s rock and roll worship. And so because of that, you know, fitting very on brand choice, they used Roundabout as their end credits thing. So when we covered Roundabout, obviously people were like, oh my God, JoJo's like, and I wore a JoJo's shirt in the studio as like a subtle nod kind of thing, being like, yep, I know.
They caught on. That's cool though, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you guys like it. I'm glad it's been really well received. It took a while to land on that decision, but you know, ultimately we did. We wanted to make it part of like an EP, but I think at this point with the timing of the release, it's like, if we were going to go that route, we might as well have just done a whole new album. So left it as a single, and now we're working on new album stuff for next year. So
that's cool. So like, I know that you have been incorporating your singing more and more into the band. So is that something that you're going to continue to do over time?
I think so. I think that I never want to like square peg round hole shit like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
totally.
I never want to just be like, oh, well, this is the style that we're going for. So I'm just going to like make it work. Like I don't, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's always been a thing. It's like people will ask me all the time if I'm going to sing as well. And I'm in like a proggy death metal band. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. When it comes up, I'm going to do what I want and what I think the part feels for. So if singing is necessary, it's going to happen. There's nothing is off limits in a band like either of ours, you know?
Exactly. So, and that's exactly how I'm approaching it too. Is I'm just like, if the dudes write a part that I think would sound good with singing on it, like then that's what I'll do.
Totally.
And if they don't, then I'm not gonna.
Yeah. The good thing is that you have the ability to do both really well, and you can execute what you want.
Yeah.
When it comes up.
Yeah. Use the tools that you have in your belt, but don't. I'm not going to use a screwdriver on a job that needs a hammer. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So
absolutely. But always buy new tools, or always be, acquiring new tools. That's always an important thing as well, I think.
Oh yeah. Definitely never stop learning. That's an important thing for every musician, I feel.
So what's your favorite 70s prog band?
Oh, dude. So there's a couple. It's a loaded question.
How much time you got?
I obviously love like the classics like King Crimson and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes, obviously, and all that stuff. But there's a couple like kind of weirder ones that I really enjoy. Gong is a big one for me. I really like Gong. It's like a 3-album concept piece by this guy named David Allen, and it's like super goofy, like Canterbury Prog type of shit. It's like really bouncy and weird and very theatric, but like musically is just crazy person shit. It's like so weird trying to dissect like if I sat down and tried to like transpose a Gong song, I would lose my mind. Like it's so weird. There's so many layers and so many time signatures and just crazy shit. And then there's this other one called Yeah, you should. It's really cool. They have I think 3 albums is where they had. If they have more, those are the only 3 albums I've ever heard. But it's like the Angel's Egg trilogy is what it's called, and it's just like cool, super goofy, fucking
Gong.
Yeah, super goofy shit. But I love it. And then Ange is another one spelled Ange. And they do some really weird shit too. That's like very. It's almost not music kind of stuff. It's just like a sonic experience, which I feel is important for prog, like to have those sections. But Ange is basically like totally based around that kind of stuff.
Oh, cool.
Really like them as well. And then Magma is another big one.
I was going to ask you if you liked Magma.
Yeah, I fucking love Magma. I mean, they like invented Zool. They're like the first Zool band. And Zool is that like weird, like French German hybrid language nonsense that they sing in. Yeah. But a ton of bands like modeled themselves after that kind of thing.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that.
Zool is like a whole genre. If you check out, there's this fucking website called Prog Archives.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Like a wet dream for prog nerds because it has all the most like obscure random shit that you would never ever find.
That's also how I find all of my new Neil Morse material. I'm fucking obsessed with Neil Morse, man. I love him so much.
Good.
I want to check that out because the drummer of Magma, Christian Vander, right? That's his name?
Yeah.
Okay, so when Animosity used to tour, I had an iPod and I had a Christian Vander solo album on there.
Oh, nice.
And like I can't find it and it was really good. I can't find it anywhere. I can't find it on Spotify or any of those streaming
I bet it's
things.
on Prog Archives.
And like his solo shit is wild, and I guarantee you they would have it listed on Prog Archives. Like
that might be the way to go because I can't remember what it's called or like anything. I would just know if I heard it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's
Prog
cool.
Archives is sick.
Yeah, I was gonna say Magma.
I know you're naming some stuff that I don't know too. I need to hit you up for more recommendations on
all that.
Yeah, I love 70s. Classic rock prog. I love it.
Yeah.
What was that one prog band? It's like, I think it's Ghoul. Is that it?
Are you talking about Goblin?
Goblin.
Yeah.
Oh, Goblin.
Yeah. I don't listen to him that much, but I was into this band called Zombie, and they're like a total replica apparently of that band Goblin. Mm-hmm. And I've been meaning to check them out more.
Well, Goblin got their big break as a prog band, right? But Goblin got their like piece of recognition because they did the Suspiria soundtrack, right?
Yeah, the original.
That was their whole deal.
Yeah, which is awesome.
It's so good.
Really
it's
good.
So good.
Yeah. Are you into the Fantastic Planet soundtrack, Alan?
Yes,
dude, so good.
Do you listen to Air?
I have not actually
Oh
listened
man,
to Air.
Riley!
You'd love
Now
it.
that
No,
you're
you'd love
saying all of this stuff, you would love Air. And Air, when I first heard the Fantastic Planet soundtrack, I was like, oh, this is the genre that Air came from.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
Air. Yeah. They drew a lot
they've
of
been
influence.
recommended to me for sure a few times, and I've never gotten around to it. I'm terrible with music recommendations.
Yeah, me too.
So am
me too.
I.
Yeah, me too.
It's
So
always
bad at it.
I'll always ask people for recommendations, and then I just go and listen to what I wanted to listen to before I asked.
Or if someone's like, "Yeah, you got to check this thing out, dude. You'd love it." It's like on the outside, I'm like, "Oh yeah, for sure, dude," and then just never.
Never gonna
On
happen.
the inside, I'm
Yeah,
like, "I'm
I
not
mean-
gonna check that out."
It's just like that mood to like discover new music like rarely
Yeah.
strikes these days.
Yeah.
But even when it does strike, like half the fun of discovering new music is like discovering it.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I
Like,
totally agree.
And just like digging through shit and being like, oh my God, this is so cool. I can't believe it. And so it's like, when I'm in that mode, the last thing I'm thinking about is like, oh yeah, this person recommended this thing to me a
Totally.
few weeks ago. Like,
Yeah.
so
I think it's
not,
all.
you
I think it's all about time and place too. All of my favorite albums take me back to a time in my life. Like
Yeah.
like they were very important during something important that was going on, and they just kind of coalesced, is not the word I'm looking for, and made something at the perfect time.
Right.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Those feels, the way art hits you is important. You know what I mean? There's I try to live my artistic viewership by this. There's this old 90s, early 2000s hip hop dude named Soul, who is one of the founders of Anacon Records out of the Bay. But he has this song called Bottle of Humans that was like his first like album they ever released. And at the end of the song, he's like rapping about all these different types of hip hop, but then he like drops this line where he's like, you know, like bottom line, it's all art. This is a good and a bad song kind of thing. And I'm just like, oh God, I love that so much. Cause it's like, it is like, it's something that I love and have all these feelings with. And it's, and appreciating it artistically. Someone else could look at it and be like, this is fucking garbage. Like,
Absolutely.
like
so-
pineapple pizza.
like pineapple pizza. I appreciate the artistry.
Well, so before we go, I have to ask, because anyone who's made it this far and knows about you, I think would want to know, how's your dad?
Oh my God. He's losing his mind. He is texting me more than ever.
Yeah.
He fucking, he hit me up a while ago being like, how come you never post our texts anymore? And I'm just like, cause you're not funny anymore. Send me funny shit and I'll post it.
That's the thing with
But-
dads, man. They think they're funny all the time. And they only hit every so often.
only every once in a while. But I feel like my next text with my dad's post is gonna break the internet because people have just been salivating, just waiting for it. Just so, where's Riley's dad? Where is he?
They need it. All right. How about this? I noticed like last month you posted that you had a cough.
Yeah,
Did you have coronavirus?
Well, I also noticed that you said you're extremely susceptible to it.
I am extremely susceptible to it. I don't know if I had it. I never got tested. My health never declined to the point, fortunately, where I like could go get tested.
Yeah.
Because you guys both live in California as well. You know the rules. It's like, unless you're on your fucking deathbed, like you can't go to the hospital and have them be like, okay, we're going to quarantine you and test you and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't do that anyway unless I really was about on my deathbed. To be honest with you.
Exactly. Because it's like, you know,
I don't think they're gonna
hospitals
send
are
me to fucking
breeding grounds for that shit. But yeah, I had a cough a while ago. I was I never had a fever, so I don't think that I had corona symptoms, but I had my good friends fucking Dayquil and NyQuil.
There you go.
Here,
Getting it done.
That'll do it.
Well, you seem
help
good
me out
now,
with
so
that. So as soon as I started getting symptomatic, I was just like on top of it and just trying to, drinking tons of water and getting tons of rest and lots of Dayquil, lots of NyQuil kind of thing. And, white person's cure for the common cold, fucking just Dayquil and Campbell's chicken soup.
That's right.
And yeah, I just did that for the first couple of days and it eventually went away. My cough lingered for a really long time. It still hasn't 100% left. Like at the end of the day or when I wake up, I'll have like a little bit of, like expulsion kind of thing, like cough up some phlegm, but it's not, I'm not like symptomatic anymore as far as like feeling shitty, but yeah, I also have chronic bronchitis that flares up You know,
Okay.
it developed in like 2015 or so, and around like fall, winter time every year, it like comes back. And even when I get like a cold, if I'm not like super on top of it, it'll develop into a bronchitis flare up.
Dang.
And the thing about the coronavirus is that like it basically just like turns your like phlegm and mucus into like cement in your airways, and that's how it kills you.
Okay.
And so as someone who like has a respiratory condition that like generates tons of mucus and phlegm and shit like that, if I got coronavirus, I would be way more susceptible to being, you know, fatally affected by it. So I've been very careful. Haven't been leaving my house very often, having a 95 mask that I pop on and all that kind of shit when
That's
I do
good.
have to leave my house. But
Good, man.
Good.
yeah,
Well, fuck,
trying to
man.
stay safe.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the
yeah.
show,
Thank
dude.
you thank you so much. It's been a pleasure,
Yeah.
and stay safe
Thanks for
out there,
having me.
man. We worry about you.
Hopefully
Oh.
we can, you know, go on tour, reschedule the tour, I guess.
Yeah, do
Yeah,
a tour or
I'm
something.
hoping so. It's we're talking about maybe later this year, but with everything,
It's like
we'll
hard
see.
to tell.
We'll see.
Who
we just
knows,
don't know.
man?
But
Yeah.
it'll happen. It'll happen. one
I'm
of these
sure.
days.
I'm sure we'll go on tour
know.
together again.
It'll be a
Oh,
good
yeah.
time. All right, man. Well,
I'm
thanks a lot
stoked.
for coming on.
Yes,
And,
check out all
absolutely.
of Riley's projects. We'll link
talk
them in
soon,
the
man.
description. Talk soon. Have a good week.